In February 2023, Elon Musk sent a tweet calling OpenAI a closed-source, maximum-profit company under Microsoft's thumb, and the internet absolutely buried him. Journalists called him bitter. Podcasters called him jealous. Venture capitalists laughed. The consensus was simple. A rich man was throwing a public tantrum because the company he abandoned had the audacity to succeed without him. But here is the problem with that story. Every single thing Musk warned about turned out to be true because he had sat inside the room with Sam Altman for years. He had watched how the man thinks, how he moves, how he builds trust, and then leverages it. And once you understand that, OpenAI stops looking like a noble mission to protect humanity from dangerous AI. It starts looking like one of the most carefully constructed illusions Silicon Valley has ever produced. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to December 2015, to a press conference that was almost engineered to make you believe. Back in 2015, a group of the biggest names in tech stood up and announced something different. An AI lab with no shareholders, profit motive, or board of investors to answer to. It would run entirely on donations, publish its research in the open, and treat safety as the priority, not a checkbox. Elon Musk was in. He had been saying for years that artificial general intelligence was one of the most dangerous things humanity had ever attempted to build, and he meant it. He had watched Google quietly absorb DeepMind, and it unsettled him. The way he saw it, the only real answer to powerful AI in the hands of one corporation was powerful AI in the hands of no corporation. Something which transparent, accountable, and would put people first. Sam Altman signed on as president. The story landed exactly the way they needed it to. These weren't the usual Silicon Valley operators chasing their next billion. These were the ones who actually cared. The good guys. Within 2 years, the story had started to change, and by late 2017, the leadership was already having a very different conversation behind closed doors. They began having conversations about restructuring, bringing in serious outside investment, and what it would take to actually compete with the giants. Musk could see the direction of travel, and he wanted control of where it was headed. He pushed for majority equity. The team said no, and in February 2018, Musk walked away. Sam Altman stepped neatly into the space he left. The first alarm came in December 2022, right after ChatGPT launched and rewired the entire internet in a single week. While everyone else was celebrating, Musk noticed something. OpenAI had been quietly using Twitter's data to train its models, and since he had just bought Twitter, that was his data. He paused the agreement and posted. OpenAI was started as open source and non-profit. Neither are still true. Then in February 2023 came the tweet everyone laughed at. Closed source. Maximum profit. Microsoft. Not what he intended. Sam Altman's response was to call him a jerk. The media dutifully ran the narrative. Musk furious about ChatGPT's success. Musk jealous. Musk left behind. It was a clean story that let everyone avoid engaging with what he was actually saying. In March 2023, Musk co-signed an open letter demanding a 6-month pause on AI development. Over 1,000 researchers put their names on it. Altman dismissed it with a single line, not the optimal way to address the issue, and kept training models at full speed. That same month, Musk asked a question nobody in the press wanted to touch. I'm still confused as to how a nonprofit to which I donated around $100 million somehow became a $30 billion for profit. If this is legal, why doesn't everyone do it? Nobody answered him. By November 2023, standing at the New York Times Dealbook Summit, Musk had a new name for the company. He said it should drop the open and rebrand as Super Closed Source Maximum Profit AI. Every journalist in that room wrote about how bitter and unhinged he seemed. Almost none of them paused to check whether he was right. Then came November 17th, 2023, and everything changed. Sam Altman was in Las Vegas, sitting in the stands at the Grand Prix, when he found out that his own board had just fired him. They removed him over a Google Meet call on a Saturday afternoon, while race engines screamed in the background. The official statement was polished. The message underneath it was devastating. They said he had not been consistently candid and had made it harder for the board to do its job. In plain language, they believed he had been lying to them. What followed was the most operatically chaotic 4 days in Silicon Valley history. 745 of roughly 770 OpenAI employees signed a letter threatening to leave if Altman wasn't reinstated. Microsoft, who had billions riding on this, immediately announced he was joining them to lead a new AI division, in what read like a very expensive ultimatum. Investors worked the phones from every direction. Within 96 hours, Altman was back. Every single board member who had voted to remove him was gone. He walked back in with a brand new board and a victory lap. The press called it a triumph, a reflection of how deeply loved he was. Then in May 2024, former board member Helen Toner broke her silence, and the narrative fell apart entirely. In a TED podcast interview, she described what the board had actually found. Altman had withheld information from them. He had misrepresented things happening inside the company, and in some cases, he had simply lied. She revealed that the board discovered the launch of ChatGPT. The single most consequential product OpenAI had ever released was from Twitter. The people legally responsible for overseeing the company found out the same way everyone else did. She also revealed something darker. Two senior executives had used the words psychological abuse to describe Altman's management style. OpenAI's own CTO, Mira Murati, had reportedly told the board she was not comfortable with Altman guiding the company toward artificial general intelligence. But none of it stuck because Altman had the employees. He had the investors. He had Microsoft standing behind him with essentially unlimited resources. And when you have all of that, a board is just furniture. The people who tried to stop him lost everything. The man they tried to stop walked back and like he owned the place. Because as it turned out, he was about to. In July 2023, OpenAI had made a very public commitment. They announced a dedicated superalignment team. 20% of the company's total compute pledged to figuring out how to actually control superintelligent AI before it became uncontrollable. It was meant to prove the mission was still real. By May 2024, both leaders of that team were gone. Ilya Sutskever resigned and went off to found his own company, called Safe Superintelligence. Jan Like, the other co-lead, left and immediately went public. He said safety culture had been quietly suffocated to make room for product launches. He said his team had been sailing against the wind, fighting for compute they'd been publicly promised, only to find that Altman had cut the safety budget from the pledged 20% down to somewhere between 1 and 2. The superalignment team was dissolved. OpenAI's CTO and 2 research leads all resigned on the same day in September 2024. The head of AGI readiness left in October, and that team was dissolved as well. 3 dedicated safety divisions gone in under 2 years. And then, quietly, in late 2025, OpenAI rewrote its mission statement. The new version said the goal was to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity. Sounds fine. Except one word was missing. The word safely, which had been woven into OpenAI's identity from the very beginning, had been removed. They just cut it and moved on. When Musk's lawsuit went to court in 2024, the discovery process began pulling internal documents into the open. And what surfaced was something OpenAI would have paid any amount to keep private. Among the exhibits was the private electronic diary of co-founder Greg Brockman, now sitting in federal court as Exhibit 43. These were entries written during the period when OpenAI was quietly planning its conversion from nonprofit to for-profit. In them, Brockman wrote that if they had committed to being a nonprofit and then converted to a for-profit just 3 months later, then it was a lie. He wrote that Musk's version of events, that they had not been honest with him about still wanting to do the conversion, was correct. Federal Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers cited that diary directly in her January 2026 ruling. She found that Brockman's notes could be read to suggest he intended to deceive. The trial is now imminent, and the man the entire tech world dismissed as jealous and bitter is about to walk into a courtroom and hand that diary to a jury. And when you step back and look at who Sam Altman actually is, not the version he sells in interviews, but the one that shows up in court filings and congressional transcripts, it is not hard to understand why Musk never let this go. In 2023, Altman sat before the United States Senate and testified under oath that he had no equity in OpenAI. "I'm paid enough for health insurance," he said. "I have no equity in OpenAI. I do this because I love it." Senators nodded. Press wrote about how refreshingly humble he was. Then it came out that he held equity through a Sequoia Capital Fund, an AY Combinator fund, that he had been running the OpenAI startup fund the entire time, while telling the board, he had no financial interest in the company. When journalists pressed him on it, he called the discrepancies tiny and not worth talking about. The restructuring that converted OpenAI from non-profit to for-profit was written in a way that could hand him roughly 7% equity in a company now valued at $852 billion. The New Yorker published an investigation based on hundreds of interviews. What they found was a pattern: a leader who tells every person in every room exactly what that person wants to hear, whether or not it's true. Former associates described sitting with him, hearing him perfectly mirror their worldview, and then learning he had walked into the next room and done the exact same thing for someone who believed the exact opposite. A senior Microsoft executive reportedly said Altman could one day be remembered as a fraud on the scale of Bernie Madoff. Board members who voted to remove him called him a sociopath unbound by the truth. His own chief scientist said he should not have his finger on the button for AGI. Elon Musk saw all of this coming in 2018. He warned about it for years. He was ridiculed for it. He was called petty, bitter, jealous, unstable. Meanwhile, Sam Altman kept building, kept raising money, kept appearing on television talking about ending poverty and reducing inequality, while OpenAI quietly became one of the most powerful wealth concentration machines in the history of Silicon Valley. The story was always too good to be true. Musk just had the receipts.